The rain started the moment Lim Do-hyun's hand touched the brass door handle of Moonflower. He stood there, unmoving, watching water bead down the glass that separated him from a decision he'd already made and unmade 17 times. Inside, amber light pooled across white tablecloths. The restaurant was nearly empty. Tuesday nights. Discreet. The kind of environment where mistakes could be corrected before they metastasized. And this was a mistake. Do-hyun's reflection stared back, sharp jaw, charcoal suit, hair pushed back with the precision of a man who'd spent 20 years never allowing anything out of place. He looked like what he was, someone who controlled rooms without raising his voice, who built empires on other people's failures. His phone buzzed. Ji-woo, shipment cleared. Lee is asking about downtown. Handle it. Do-hyun typed back, tomorrow. I'm busy. Busy. Standing in the rain like an idiot, about to walk into a blind date he'd agreed to out of obligation to a fixer who knew too much. 30 minutes, he promised himself. In and out. That was before he learned she was black. The thought arrived like a fist accompanied by the smell of oil-stained concrete and his father's voice, thin with terror. Please. I have a son. 16 years old. Warehouse in South Central. His father kneeling before men who smiled with too many teeth. Men who'd promised protection and delivered betrayal. Different was dangerous. Trust was fatal. He didn't date black women. Not publicly, not privately, not ever. 30 minutes, he reminded himself, and pulled open the door. The hostess looked up. Mr. Mallet. Lim, your guest arrived early. Third booth. Do-hyun walked past empty tables. He could see her now back to the wall, the power position. She turned her head toward his footsteps before he spoke. She was stunning. Dark skin holding the amber light, emerald dress, but her eyes tracked movement that wasn't quite there. Blind, she smiled. Not at him exactly, but at the space he occupied. You're late. Do-hyun glanced at his watch. 2 minutes passed. The rain, he said. Her smile widened. You smell like rain. You smell like rain. An expensive regret. The observation landed like a blade between ribs. He sat down, folding his hands with careful precision. I'm Do-hyun. I know. I'm Naomi. A pause. How did you know I was regretting this? Naomi tilted her head. People who want to be somewhere walk differently than people who force themselves to show up. Your footsteps were reluctant. She leaned forward. You sound like someone who's learned how to disappear in plain sight. No one had ever spoken to him like that. If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My mother said I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers. But I believe stories like this deserve to be heard. Help me show her that these tales matter. Please subscribe to Afro X Korean, and let's keep breathing life into stories that were never meant to stay silent. Now, let's continue. 30 minutes, he heard himself say. That's all I have. Naomi's smile turned knowing. Liar, you have all night. You're just afraid of what might happen if you stay. Do-hyun stared at this woman who couldn't see him staring, who sat there radiating confidence that had nothing to do with sight. His phone buzzed again. He silenced it without looking. You're right, he said finally. I am afraid. Naomi's expression softened, not with pity, but understanding. Good, she said. Fear means you're still alive. She reached across the table, fingers stopping an inch from his hands. I'm going to tell you something. I can hear the way you're looking at me. Like you're trying to solve a problem. Like I'm an equation that doesn't add up. Do-hyun's jaw tightened. And I already know what you're thinking, she continued. That this was a mistake. That the color of my skin means something to you, something old and painful you've never dealt with. The air left his lungs. But here's what you don't know yet. She smiled, bright and unafraid. I'm the worst possible thing that could have happened to you tonight. Why? Because I'm the one person in this room who doesn't need to see you to know exactly who you are. And that terrifies you more than any enemy ever could. Do-hyun sat frozen as this blind woman who shouldn't have any power over him dismantled 2 decades of walls with nothing but words. Outside, the rain fell harder. Inside, something ancient cracked open in his chest. He planned to stay 30 minutes. He had no idea he was already lost. The waiter appeared with water, breaking the tension. Do-hyun watched Naomi's fingers trace the edge of her glass, mapping its position with the kind of precision that came from years of navigating a world designed for sight. "You speak Korean," he said. "Not a question. I was a curator at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art," Naomi replied. "Asian Art Division. Korean ceramics were my specialty. You can't study Joseon Dynasty pottery without learning the language." Was. Past tense. Do-hyun filed that away, the way he filed everything, information as ammunition, details as leverage. But something about the slight tightness in her voice when she said it made him hesitate. "What happened?" he asked, then immediately regretted the directness. Naomi didn't flinch. "Retinal disease. Took 3 years to steal my sight completely. First the periphery, then the colors, then everything else." She took a sip of water. "The museum let me go 6 months after my diagnosis. Said they needed someone who could properly evaluate visual materials." "That's legal?" She smiled without humor. "Barely. But I was tired of fighting. Tired of watching people look at me like I was broken." Her fingers found the napkin, folding it into precise triangles. "My sister Zara wanted me to sue. She's a lawyer, sees injustice everywhere, and thinks courtrooms can fix it. Can't they?" "Courtrooms can't fix the way people see you," Naomi said softly. "The pity. The assumption that losing one sense means you've lost everything." Do-hyun understood that more than she knew. After his father died, people had looked at him the same way, like trauma had hollowed him out, left him less than whole. He built his empire to prove them wrong. Built it with clean money fronts, political connections, and a reputation for being more dangerous than men twice his age. No drugs on the streets, no unnecessary violence, just cold, calculated control over every piece of territory, from Koreatown to the harbor. His men respected him because he never raised his voice. Never had to. Fear was most effective when it was quiet. "Why did you agree to this?" he asked. "The blind date." Naomi's hand moved to her wrist, fingers brushing over a barely visible scar. Do-hyun noticed the gesture, unconscious, protective. "Because I'm tired of people treating me like I'm fragile," she said. "The fixer told me you were complicated. Guarded. Someone who wouldn't coddle me or apologize for existing in my space." She paused. "I wanted to see if I could still read people without my eyes. If I could trust my other senses. And you're terrified," she said simply. "Not of me, of yourself. Of what you might feel if you let those walls down for even a second." Do-hyun's phone buzzed again. This time it was a message that made his blood cool. 3 men just entered the restaurant. Back entrance, not ours. His entire body went still. Naomi's head tilted slightly. "The 3 men who just walked in. Are they here for you?" Do-hyun's breath caught. "How did you—" "I can hear the way people move when they're hunting," she said quietly. He stopped breathing. Outside, thunder rolled. Inside, Do-hyun realized this blind date had just become something far more dangerous. And the woman across from him had just proven she saw more than anyone ever had. Do-hyun's eyes flicked to the mirror behind Naomi's head. 3 men, black leather jackets, moving with the kind of casual menace that screamed intention. They weren't Korean. Mixed crew Latino, black, white. And they were scanning the restaurant with predatory focus. His mind calculated exits. Kitchen. Back hallway. Front door too exposed. "Are they here for you?" Naomi asked again, voice steady. The men hadn't spotted him yet. They were talking to the hostess, who looked nervous. Do-hyun recognized the leader's scarred knuckles, gold teeth, connected to the same crew that had destroyed his father 22 years ago. This wasn't random. Someone had sent them. Someone knew about tonight. "We need to leave," Do-hyun said quietly. "Now." He expected panic, questions, the typical freeze response civilians had when danger announced itself. Instead, Naomi reached across the table and took his hand. Her grip was firm, warm, grounding. "Whatever you're about to do," she whispered, "don't let them see you afraid. Fear has a sound, a rhythm. They'll hear it before they see it." Do-hyun stared at her, this woman who couldn't see the threat but understood it instinctively. The men turned toward their section. Decision time. He could leave her here, walk out the back alone. She'd be safe, uninvolved, forgotten by morning. Or, "Stay close to me," he said, standing smoothly. "Trust me for 60 seconds. Naomi rose without hesitation, her hand sliding to his elbow. No cane, no fumbling, just absolute trust. Do-hyun guided her toward the kitchen with purposeful calm, nodding to the chef, one of his people who immediately understood. The back door opened into an alley slick with rain. Behind them he heard chairs scraping, footsteps accelerating. They stepped into the downpour. Do-hyun pulled Naomi close to the wall, his body shielding hers. Rain plastered his suit to his skin. Her breath came quick, but controlled against his chest. 60 seconds became 90. The footsteps faded confused, searching elsewhere. Do-hyun looked down. Naomi's face was tilted up toward his, rain streaming down her cheeks, lips parted. They were inches apart, close enough that he could feel her heartbeat matching his own frantic rhythm. "When did you know I was dangerous?" he asked, voice rough. Naomi's smile was soft, devastating. "The moment you decided I wasn't." His phone buzzed. "Ji-woo. Those men were sent as a warning. Someone knows about your date. Your private life isn't private anymore." Do-hyun read the message twice. Then he looked at the woman in his arms, the one who trusted him without question, who'd seen through him without sight, and realized something terrifying. He didn't want to let her go. Do-hyun couldn't stop thinking about her. 2 weeks passed, 14 days of telling himself it was over, that Naomi was a complication he couldn't afford. 14 nights of remembering how she'd felt in his arms in that rain-soaked alley, fearless and soft and completely unafraid of the monster everyone else saw when they looked at him. On day 15, he called her. "I was wondering when you would," she answered. "No hello." "How did you know it was me? Who else hesitates 3 seconds before speaking?" Their second date was the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, closed after hours. Do-hyun had made a single phone call. Doors opened. Security disappeared. Naomi stood before a Joseon Dynasty celadon vase, fingers hovering over the glass case. "They won't let me touch them anymore," she said softly. "Insurance liability." Do-hyun looked at the security camera, then back at her. He pressed his thumb to the case lock. People controlled the museum's private security contract. The case opened. Naomi's breath caught. "Do-hyun, touch it," he said. "Tell me what you see." Her fingers found the ceramic, tracing the curves with reverence. "The glaze is like water frozen mid-ripple. The artisan's thumbprint is still here in the clay." He was nervous. You can feel where he pressed too hard. Do-hyun watched her face transform, joy, wonder, grief, all mixed together. "What color is it?" she asked. He'd never described color before, never had to. "Like jade mixed with morning mist. The way hope feels before it disappoints you." Naomi turned toward his voice. "That's the saddest description of celadon I've ever heard. It's honest." Honesty isn't always sad, Do-hyun. But it was. In his world, honesty got people killed. Their third date was his private rooftop in downtown. City lights spread below them like fallen stars. "You think not feeling makes you strong," Naomi said, wine glass balanced perfectly in her hand. "I think it makes you half alive. Half alive is safer than dead." "Is it though?" She set down her glass. "Because from where I'm sitting, you've been dead for 20 years. You just haven't stopped moving yet." The words cut deeper than any blade. Do-hyun found himself talking about his father's death, about rebuilding the empire, about the guilt that lived in his chest like shrapnel, things he'd never told anyone. Naomi listened without judgment, without pity. When he finished, she reached out, found his hand. "Your father's death wasn't your fault," she said quietly. "I should have protected him. You were 16. Old enough to matter. Old enough to be traumatized, you mean?" Her thumb traced his knuckles scarred from fights he'd won and losses he'd avenged. "These scars. Tell me about them." And he did. Every single one. Meanwhile, Jiwoo's warnings grew more urgent. Rumors spreading through Koreatown: Do-hyun dating a black woman. Elders questioned his judgment. Rivals saw weakness. "You're making yourself a target," Jiwoo said flatly. Do-hyun didn't care. But he should have noticed the other warning signs. Naomi receiving mysterious calls she didn't mention. Her meeting someone in secret, a man. Do-hyun's instinct screamed was dangerous. Everyone hides something, he reminded himself. The question was, what was Naomi hiding? And why did the thought of her betrayal hurt worse than any bullet ever could? Do-hyun discovered the truth on a Thursday. His men had been following Naomi, not because he'd asked, but because Jiwoo didn't trust her. The photos landed on Do-hyun's desk like grenades, Naomi sitting across from a man in a coffee shop. Clean cut, professional, white. The man's name was Marcus Green, former FBI agent turned private investigator, and he was investigating the crew that killed Do-hyun's father. Do-hyun's world tilted sideways. He showed up at Naomi's apartment without warning, the photos clutched in his fist. She opened the door, somehow knowing it was him before he knocked. "You were working with the FBI," he said, voice dangerously quiet. Naomi's face went pale. "Do-hyun, from the beginning, the blind date, all of it." He stepped inside and she didn't stop him. "You were a plant. Marcus needed access to me, so he sent you." "No." Her voice cracked. "That's not, don't lie to me." The words exploded out of him. "I opened up to you. I trusted you." Naomi's hands trembled. "Marcus approached me 3 weeks before the blind date. He told me he was investigating your organization. He asked me to get close to you, to gather information." Do-hyun felt something inside him shatter. "I said no," Naomi continued, tears streaming down her face. "I told him I wouldn't spy on anyone. The blind date, that was real. I agreed to meet you to prove to myself I could trust again, not to betray you." "Then why were you meeting with him?" "Because he wouldn't leave me alone." Her voice broke. "Marcus is my ex-fiancé. We were engaged when I started losing my sight. He left me 6 months into my diagnosis, said he couldn't handle it, couldn't handle me." Do-hyun stopped. "He showed up 2 weeks ago with evidence," Naomi whispered. "Evidence that the men who killed your father are planning to kill you next. They orchestrated that warning at the restaurant. They know about us, Do-hyun. And now I'm a target too." Marcus's voice came from behind him. "She's telling the truth?" Do-hyun spun. Marcus stood in the doorway, calm, controlled, everything Do-hyun hated. "The crew that destroyed your father's syndicate is planning to finish what they started," Marcus said. "And there's a mole in your organization feeding them information." "Who?" "I don't know yet, but they've been watching you for months, waiting for a weakness." Marcus looked at Naomi. "She became that weakness the moment you fell for her." Do-hyun's mind raced. Jiwoo's warnings. The perfectly timed attack at the restaurant. Someone knowing about the blind date before it happened. "There's more," Marcus said. "They're planning to move within 72 hours. Naomi stepped toward Do-hyun, her hand finding his arm. "I know you don't trust me now. I know I should have told you about Marcus. But I'm not your enemy." Do-hyun looked at her, really looked. Saw the fear, the regret, the desperate honesty in her blind eyes. "My father died because he trusted wrong," he said quietly. "I swore I'd never—" "Your father died because evil men made evil choices," Naomi interrupted. "Not because love is weakness." She took his face in her hands. "I can't see your scars, but I can feel them, and they don't scare me." Do-hyun's carefully constructed walls crumbled. If we do this, he said hoarsely, there's no going back. You'll be in my world forever. Naomi's smile was sad and beautiful. I've been in the dark before. I'm not afraid of yours. The attack came 36 hours later. Do-hyun's warehouse in San Pedro, one of his cleanest operations. Legitimate imports. Nothing the authorities could touch went up in flames at 3 a.m. 3 men hospitalized. Millions in damage. The message arrived with the smoke. The black bitch goes, or you all die. Do-hyun sat in his office, the note burning a hole through his desk, while his advisors circled like vultures. You need to end this, his chief accountant said. She's a liability. The elders are questioning your judgment, another added. They're saying you've gone soft. Jae-woo said nothing, just watched with eyes that seemed to calculate trajectories Do-hyun couldn't see. When they left, Do-hyun made the call he'd been dreading. We're done, he told Naomi. No preamble. No softness. Silence on the other end. Then what happened? 3 of my men are in the hospital. My business is burning. And it's because of you. Do-hyun, I can't protect you and fight this war. His voice was ice over rage. You need to disappear. Tonight. You're doing exactly what they want, Naomi said, her voice breaking. Choosing fear over what? Love? The word tasted like poison. Love is what killed my father. Love made him weak, made him trust, made him kneel on that warehouse floor while He couldn't finish. Naomi was crying now. He could hear it in her breathing. I thought you were different, she whispered. I thought you were brave enough to. Goodbye, Naomi. He hung up before she could respond. The silence in his office was deafening. 40 minutes later, Jae-woo entered without knocking. It's done, he said. Marcus is taking her to a safe house. You'll never see her again. Daewon nodded, feeling nothing. Feeling everything. You did the right thing, Hyung, Ji-woo continued. She made you weak, just like those men made your father weak. Something in Ji-woo's tone made Do-hyun look up. What did you say? Your father. He got weak. Let the wrong people close. And it destroyed him. Do-hyun stood slowly. How do you know what destroyed my father? Ji-woo's expression didn't change, but his hand moved toward his jacket. Because my family was there, Ji-woo said quietly. The night your father died. My father was the one who pulled the trigger. The world stopped. I've been playing both sides for 3 years, Ji-woo said, waiting for the right moment, and then you brought her into our world, gave me the perfect weakness to exploit. Do-hyun's phone buzzed. A photo, Naomi entering her apartment building, red crosshairs over her head. The message, come alone to the port of Los Angeles. Pier 47. 1 hour. Or she dies screaming. Ji-woo smiled. Your father died on his knees, begging. Let's see if his son has more pride. Do-hyun's hand moved toward his gun. Ji-woo was faster. I wouldn't. I've got 4 men on her building. You shoot me, she's dead before you reach the door. Everything Do-hyun had built, every wall, every carefully constructed defense collapsed into a single, horrifying truth. He'd pushed away the only person who'd ever truly seen him, and now she was going to die for it. Do-hyun had 60 minutes to save the woman he loved. He didn't waste them on despair. The moment Ji-woo left confident, arrogant, already counting his victory, Do-hyun made 3 calls. First, to Marcus. Ji-woo's the mole. His father killed mine. He's been playing us both. Second, to his most loyal men, the ones Ji-woo hadn't corrupted. Pier 47. 1 hour. Come heavy. Third, to the one person who could expose Ji-woo's entire network, an old ally his father had protected years ago, now a federal judge. Then he called Naomi. Voicemail. I know you can hear this, he said quietly. I know you're planning something brave and stupid, and I know I'm the reason you're in danger. He paused. I pushed you away because I was terrified, Because everyone I've ever loved has died, and losing you would destroy me in ways I couldn't survive. His voice cracked. But strength isn't surviving alone, Naomi. It's choosing to survive together. I'm coming for you. If you believe in us, if you still trust me, after everything, be ready. He hung up. Marcus called back within seconds. She's not at the safe house. Do-hyun's blood went cold. What? She left 20 minutes ago. Left a note, I'm done being protected. He needs to know he's worth fighting for. Where is she? Pier 47. She's walking into the trap, Do-hyun. She thinks she can trade herself for you. Do-hyun was already moving, gun holstered, rage and fear, and something fiercer than both burning through his veins. For 20 years, he'd survived by being smarter, colder, more ruthless than everyone else. Now he was going to save Naomi by being the one thing he'd never allowed himself to be: human. He reached the port with 15 minutes to spare. His men were already in position shadows among shipping containers. Loyalty bought not with fear but with truth. Marcus appeared beside him. She's inside. Alone. Surrounded. Do-hyun checked his weapon. Then let's even the odds. You love her. It wasn't a question. More than I thought possible, Do-hyun said. Together, they moved into the darkness. Pier 47 was a graveyard of rusted shipping containers and broken dreams. Do-hyun found Naomi standing in the center of an open space, Kane at her side, surrounded by Jo-yu and 12 armed men. Floodlights turned the scene into a stage. You came, Jo-yu called out. How touching. Do-hyun stepped into the light, hands visible, weapon holstered. Let her go. This is between us. No, Naomi said firmly. I'm not leaving. Ji-woo laughed. The blind leading the blind. Your father would be ashamed. My father, Do-hyun said quietly, would be proud I finally learned what he knew. That love isn't weakness. It's the only thing worth dying for. Gunfire erupted. But not from Ji-woo's men. From the containers above them. Do-hyun's team, positioned perfectly. Chaos exploded as Ji-woo's crew scattered, outflanked and outgunned. Do-hyun reached Naomi, pulling her behind a container as bullets ricocheted off steel. You're insane, he breathed against her hair. You're one to talk, she replied, gripping his jacket. Marcus appeared, weapon drawn, FBI badge visible. Ji-woo, it's over. Your entire operation is burned. Ji-woo, cornered and desperate, raised his gun toward Naomi. Do-hyun moved without thinking, body shielding hers, weapon clearing leather. But the shot came from somewhere else. Ji-woo dropped, clutching his shoulder. Behind him stood an older man, one of Do-hyun's father's original crew, someone everyone thought was dead. Your father saved my life once, the man said quietly. I've been waiting 20 years to repay that debt. FBI vehicles flooded the pier. Ji-woo's men surrendered. The battle was over in 90 seconds. Do-hyun turned to Naomi, still holding her close. You walked into a death trap for me, he said. You would have done the same. I did do the same. She smiled through tears. Then I guess we're both idiots. The best kind, he whispered, and kissed her while sirens wailed and his old life burned away around them. When they finally pulled apart, Naomi touched his face. What happens now? Do-hyun looked at the federal agents, at Marcus holding evidence that could dismantle everything, at the empire he'd built on his father's grave. Now, he said, we build something new. Together. 6 months later, Do-hyun stood in a community center in south-central Los Angeles, the same neighborhood where his father died. But he wasn't there to collect debts or enforce territory. He was teaching young men how to escape the life he'd left behind. Naomi's art program occupied the floor above accessible workshops, where blind and sighted students created together, learning that vision came in many forms. You're different now, Marcus said, visiting to finalize the immunity deal. Do-hyun's testimony had dismantled 3 criminal networks. In exchange, he'd walked away clean. I'm alive now, Do-hyun corrected. There's a difference. That evening, Do-hyun took Naomi to his father's grave. I want to do this here, he said quietly, where it all started, where I learned the wrong lessons. He knelt, pulling out a small box. Naomi's fingers found his face, trembling. Do-hyun, I spent 20 years building walls, he said. You taught me that the bravest thing I could ever do was tear them down. Marry me, Naomi. Let me spend the rest of my life seeing the world the way you do, with truth, courage, and love. She was crying, nodding, pulling him close. Yes, always yes. He slipped the ring on her finger engraved in Braille. You taught me to see. Some encounters don't test your beliefs. They shatter them. And from those beautiful ruins you build something stronger, a life worth living, with someone worth everything.